End of the work week. For most people, it is the Friday edition of the all-new Sports Cage. Today's host, it says there on the stream, Barney Shynkaruk, that's myself, and I'm joined by Daren Anderson, also known as DA. C and C are on the other side of the board. We'll have some fun today on Euro Vakanainen Day. That's what it is here at the Sports Cage. You have no idea what that means. We're going to brief you in a second. We're just trying to get that Vakanainen name out there so we don't mess it up.
I'm not a professional, Barney, so I don't have to say that name.
It's a little trick in the business, especially for play-by-play guys. The more you say a name like Vakanainen, the more you will
just rolls off the
get
tongue.
it correct. Right, Curtis? Do you know any Vakanainens in your life? It's a rhetorical question.
No.
Next 3 hours, we are going to talk football and the signing of Trevor Harris. DA, you're going to chime in, as he usually does on the Rider front. And then Luc Mullinder will hop on the stream and be with us in about 15 minutes' time. Exceptional status. If you're in the hockey loop and you have a kid or you've been following hockey probably from about 11 years old until major junior, you've heard the term exceptional status. We do have a young gentleman in Regina that should be, I would say, be getting exceptional status into the CHL next year in Maddox Schultz. We're going to find out about the process. I don't think anyone out there really knows the whole process besides some of the major players. Kelly McClintock, Executive Director of Hockey Saskatchewan, is going to come on, and we're going to talk about the players in Saskatchewan that have had it in the past and currently, and then how that advances to the next level. That'll be all coming up at the end here of hour one. Hour two, Farhan Lalji. So much CFL news. What does Farhan know? Does Farhan know anything that we don't know, that Vakanainen doesn't know? We will talk to Farhan about the CFL. Mike Reagan, head coach of Team West at the Junior A World Championships going on in Camrose, will also hop in. Talk a little Junior A hockey with him. And then hour three, Jason Ripplinger, general manager of the Moose Jaw Warriors, who just made one of the biggest trades we're probably going to see in junior hockey this year. Ripper will come on and we'll have a good 10 minutes with him on a game day. Always nice when you can get a GM of a team on a game day to stop in. So DA, been a week, little agribition last week. Now we're back in the studio here. The big news yesterday, Trevor Harris re-signs with our Saskatchewan Roughriders. I was watching some of the chat boards and mostly social media. It's positive. And the big thing was, you were that surprised that this was happening? It's, what was the better option? It's, like, I know some people are going to say, well, we didn't kick tires on VA. But now Harris is back. We're going to hear some audio from him today. And they have the runway, right? They got a year in the books with Mueller, most of the receivers, probably the offensive line if they come back. We're starting 12 months ahead of where we did.
Yeah, put me in camp meh on this one.
Yeah?
Barney. I get it. I get it. Who else could you have gone with? I think the risk is a year from now, we're sitting here having the same conversation after rolling out the fourth best team in a 9-team league with a 40-year-old quarterback. At what point do you take a risk and go, we haven't been to the Grey Cup in 10 years, 11 years. We haven't been to 10 Grey Cups. To me, I get it. Harris is going to be a Hall of Famer, most likely. Hard to get excited, though. For me. That's me.
For you?
Team meh.
I like it. When you say a risk, what would your risk have been?
Well,
or try.
So if I told you, we're not going to win the Grey Cup next year, would you make the same decision? Are you going to give the reins to someone else and start to move on? Let me put it to you this way. Great NFL game last night. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Packers-Lions. Did the Packers roll with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams still? Would they be in the same spot? How long do you roll with these guys? Eventually you got to make a risk. You got to step out there. Lions the same way with what's his name that went to LA and ended up winning a Super Bowl. But you make that call
Stafford.
with Stafford. eventually you got to make a call and you got to step out and take a risk. To me, this was the least risky move possible. And again, depends. I don't know how much money he got. Maybe if he didn't get that much money and you're going to have two guys and another guy there that can maybe step up. I don't know. But I don't, this doesn't leap us to the top like all of a sudden we're Grey Cup favorites.
See, I think it does put, because if we go to that Winnipeg game and a couple things go different in that game, it's a different ball we could be in. Hey, that Marcus Sayles maybe tackles their third stringer on that edge. There's always a few plays in football where now maybe we're into that Grey Cup game. Maybe we match up better against the Argos. The Bombers absolutely laid an egg in that game. Like I said before, I feel like it was similar to how we played against the Bombers, is how the Bombers played against Toronto. And there's a lot of game planning that goes in. And you got to give kudos to those coaches. So I feel that this team and with the receivers, if we get them back, with another year of Mark Mueller, with another year of, I'm sure Harrison's going to be back as an offensive line coach, we're starting so far ahead. Then the other thing that I would go is, who else was really there? Like, I get everyone's going to say VA. VA really want to come here. Sounds like he's in love with Calgary. And I don't know. I don't know if he is as good as we saw in July or June last year.
Yeah, I don't know. But at what point do we go with Shea Patterson? At what point do we find a Davis Alexander?
Like, I think you're always trying to find that.
So let's the dichotomy. So to me, Toronto, Montreal were 1-2 in the league. Then there was Winnipeg. Then there was us in Ottawa. Ottawa's, you could make the same arguments for Ottawa next year. Not making any changes so far, but another year with a new quarterback in Drew, right? Like coaching staff, more stability, etc. We're going to have Edmonton with new young coaching staff, BC with a new young coaching staff, Calgary with new quarterbacks. Because it's not just VA they got; they also got PJ Walker. Right? They're trying to change the culture there, obviously. To me, I just go, it's. Well, to your point, it's amazing. So compare us to Montreal. So Montreal was probably the second best team in the league this year, or first. Them and Toronto duking it out all year, and they go with they get rid of Fajardo, who won the Grey Cup for them. Won the Grey Cup last year. So 13 months ago, he won the Grey Cup, and they said, you know what, we're going to go with Davis Alexander, and we're going, hey, let's take the 39-year-old guy. I guess it's a whole bunch of ifs, buts, and maybes to win in that Winnipeg game. To me, I'm like, we didn't really have a shot from the opening kickoff of that game, but I don't know. Like, to me, that's where it's a meh. Can we win the Grey Cup with Trevor Harris? Yes. What percentage chance?
I see. Yeah, no, and that's why we can all have differing opinions here, and you make a point for sure. As far as Harris, we have the audio, and he talks about it. For him, it doesn't even sound like there was anything else to think about.
Based on the exit meetings that I had and how I felt toward the end of the season, I think it was pretty much a no-brainer. I feel like I'm playing some of the best football of my career. I think some of the best football that I'm going to play is right in front of me, and I think that's a credit to this organization, to Mark Mueller, Corey Mace, the teammates I have, and the budding stars that we have in the receiving room with Sam Emlis and Shafe and Keyshawn and Dante Myers and Jarrett Stearns and Bain. Like, we've just got guys, and we've got guys up front that really excite me in terms of what the next year could look like with this club. And, obviously guided by Mace and Jeremy O'Day and Kyle Carson and Craig Reynolds. And so, it was a no-brainer for me. As soon as I knew that I felt like I had multiple years left in the tank, I was like, this is where I want to be.
Let's go right out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Christmas parties, Christmas gifts, get that $25 gift exchange, get a Western Pizza gift card. Luc Mullinder is cruising around. You're going to see him on the stream here momentarily. Looks like he's just getting off a hard day at the mine. Luc, DA and I are having a good debate here. What do you? What's your initial thoughts here when you hear officially today that we have Trevor Harris back in the stable?
Well, I think that there's two things. It's good. I mean, he was playing great football when he wasn't hurt, and I think that they got him at a price where they're going to be able to bring somebody else in and essentially continue to, you have to continue to, I was listening to you guys at the end, you have to continue to groom the next guy. Absolutely. So I don't think it hurt him pocketbook wise, and that's probably the best thing, that best case scenario for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Bring a guy back that was throwing the ball well when he was healthy. And you shouldn't be surprised, because when Jeremy O'Day talked to the media at the end of the year, one of the first things he said was, hey, we want to bring back our core. We want to bring the guys back in the locker room. And that's what every successful team does at some point in time, is they've got to balance, when or how long their core guys have together versus how much that costs, and then also where the guys that can compete and push them out of a job eventually are coming from. So I think it was best case scenario for Saskatchewan, because you can still get another quarterback. You can still try to create a competitive environment. And I think that any other quarterback that comes in here after Trevor Harris should be pretty excited, because I think that if you look into the last 2 years, the one thing that you know is that you're going to get an opportunity to play at some point.
Do you think we're going to find out rather quickly on what this organization thinks about Shea Patterson?
I think so. Shea was a bit sporadic this year when he got in. I think that his clock, he's still a young quarterback. His clock didn't slow down as much as I think he would have liked when he turns on the film. But again, you need reps to do that. I wouldn't close the book on him totally just yet. I'd bring him back if I could, because again, he's a young guy and he has shown some poise. And keep in mind, he's also a young guy that needed to go through a second offensive coordinator, right? There's been no consistency. So I think that bringing a guy back like that, one of the benefits is, hey, he comes in a lot looser. He comes in knowing the system, and he comes in ready to compete, right? So again, the other piece about Shea is you want guys in the locker room like that, who just want to come into work, who are going to beat the coaches into work, who are going to do everything that you ask, plus more. You got to remember that in locker rooms, you need people to lead at all levels, whether they're on the field being the best player on the team, or whether they're depth guys, encouraging guys and building into the special teams guys. So again, I wouldn't close the book on Shea Patterson at all.
Oh, good. Hey, DA here, Luc. Just got news. Trey Ford was extended 3 years by Edmonton, so it looks like they're gonna keep him in their quarterback room. Give us some insider, from a player's perspective, on to what you said. You have 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks that are gonna split. How difficult is that on a coaching staff to say limited reps? We got to get ready to play. We got to pick a number one, versus having that battle. And especially in the CFL with such a short training camp relatively.
Well, the one thing, if you truly want the insight from a locker room perspective, is those guys come in with a battle in mind anyways, right? It's predetermined that you're coming into an environment where you need to compete. You hear the terminology, control what you can control. If you're not competing to be the number one guy, regardless of how many reps you're getting in camp, you're not going to be a guy, period. Right? So you can sit there and whine and complain that you only got 10 snaps in training camp. Or you can be like, man, that was the best 10 snaps I've ever put on film, and I'm making it really hard on these coaches to make a decision. When you're at the spot where the Saskatchewan Roughriders are right now, bringing Trevor Harris back is a sign. Hey, look, we have our guy. But it's also an indication of, look, we're also looking for another guy too, because age is a factor at this point. And there's still some quarterbacks out there. I think that they avoided, listen, I know what everybody thinks about Trey, and I know he's Canadian and he's got some great athletic ability. But honestly, I think that they avoided a landmine there. You've got guys like I know that Jake Mayer's got a bad reputation coming out of Calgary, but as a backup quarterback, I mean, he's already one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league today alone, right? So you're going to have to consider certain guys. But again, what's the pocketbook read? You can't end up in the red, obviously. And the nice thing about it is you're coming into training camp, regardless of how many quarterbacks you have in the room, and they know, look, Trevor is the guy, but I need to compete my tail off because I'm going to get an opportunity to play significant reps at some point this year, okay? And I'm not a number 2 guy. I'm the guy. And if I get an opportunity to play as the guy, I'm never letting that opportunity go. That's what every single one of those quarterbacks is going to come into. Any quarterback that comes in and says, oh, man, I'm just here to contribute, I'm just here to be a guy, they won't last past the first cut. And you can tell. You'll see those guys right away.
Maybe that's what a Davis Alexander shows last year in Montreal. Right? Do you think there is a chance that there is something working out here that we could see Jake Mayer as a rider?
Listen, what's the argument against Jake Mayer if you're any other team that is looking for a backup quarterback? There is none, right? He's a guy that's played significant reps. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that's going to be extremely motivated. Sometimes, guys, a fresh start is all you need, right? Sometimes players get to the point where the environment, no matter how positive or how negative it is in the media, just becomes a toxic environment for you. I look at Jake Mayer still as a guy that, again, you can't discount the reps that this guy's played for the Calgary Stampeders, bad or good, right? Now, listen, when he played for the Calgary Stampeders.
In a dysfunctional organization. Like those reps
listen, don't buy into the, oh man, you know, he was in a dysfunctional spot, blah, blah, blah. I get that, but that has nothing to do on a quarterback's ability to get out there and compete, right? He could have turned that into a chip on his shoulder. I actually think that if he was in a dysfunctional situation and he let that get to them, that actually says more about Jake Mayer than it says about the organization. So I don't buy into that stuff. I think that here's a guy that's played some reps. We loved him when we played against him because he was going to turn the ball over. Now he's coming into our system. Let's embrace him as a guy that's gotten a ton of reps, that has a ton of experience. And if Trevor Harris does go down or if Trevor Harris comes back and he's not in shape and he throws the ball, not up to standard in training camp, then we have a guy that hey, look, we have a guy here that's played major reps.
That what I meant more was the dysfunctional reps. They're almost heavier reps. They're like better reps that he was repping in that organization with that, right? Sorry,
he's got some scars.
Yeah,
I mean, you always want guys that have scars.
Yeah, battle scars
that have been through some times. So to switch topics a little bit here, Luc, maybe comment on the sort of the changing in the guard that I'm seeing in the coaching ranks. You know, the CFL for a long time was sort of the merry-go-round where you had these same coaches getting recycled over and over and over again, looking like Rick Campbell's maybe on the outside looking in, which is shocking to me, but exciting to have Buck Pierce take the reins in BC, Mark take the reins in Calgary, Mace here, you know, this sort of Dinwiddie and all the success he's had in Toronto, obviously. Do you see that as sort of snowballing from the success that Dinwiddie has had and sort of these younger guys starting to get a chance and opportunity?
I think that the reason that you're seeing this younger movement that's actually being successful, there's two phases, right? You could be a young coach, and we've seen younger movements in the Canadian Football League before that have just absolutely fallen flat and actually set programs back, right? I think the younger movement and the success some of those younger guys are having is a direct result of them understanding the generation of athlete that they're coaching today. I'll tell you the one guy I'm really excited about, and forget all the fluff and all the, oh man, his players, they all called the front office and vouched for. I think Mark Killam has a chance to be one of the better coaches in that new group. You've got a guy who has been one of the best coaches in terms of getting his position group or his, obviously he's the special teams coordinator, his guys ready, right? They've always been prepared. One of the things about Calgary, even back in their heyday, they've had exceptional special teams, and he's the guy. He's also seen John Huffnagel. He's also seen Dave Dickinson. I think this guy's got all the ingredients, or at least all the resources in place for him to be a success there in Edmonton. You've got to watch it. You can't just bring back all the old Edmonton Eskimos and you can't just kumbaya your way to a Grey Cup and say, oh, we're back to the Edmonton Eskimo way, blah, blah, blah. You've still got to do the coaching. You still got to do the work. But I think Killam's set up for some success there, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Edmonton Elk really turned around. I'm not saying in the first year, but I think, again, it could be good for Mark Killam. So, again, I think, man, this generation of coaching, the younger guys, the success is predicated on the fact that they actually can get through to this younger generation of athletes. I would be a terrible coach, I think, in this generation of Canadian Football League. I would tend to gravitate towards, I think, the more demanding, and I just don't think I would resonate with certain guys, right? And you have to know yourself. That's the first thing you have to do and understand as a coach, is you have to know who you are.
I think you'd be okay, Luke.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about the record of your flag football team this past year, but I still think you would do. I still think you'd do it.
What are you talking about? We were awesome. Man, we had those kids flying around. I will say that flag football, though. Listen, if you're 6 and 7 and you're out there and you're coaching with a scheme, that's crazy to me. We just wanted to have fun. I thought our guys were great.
Charbel De Beer, back on the defensive line. Does that excite you?
Absolutely. If Charbel stayed healthy, he was having a great year before he got hurt. A great year, and he's doing this. He's going up. That's exactly what you want. He was a guy that came in, and especially in the last couple of years, came in and nothing fell off. Right? He was the guy that could pull his own weight. He made a lot of plays in the short yardage situations, and he was starting to rush the passer really well. So the fact that he went down last year was probably one of the sadder things that happened to the Riders last year, because I was really enjoying watching Charbel play, and I can't wait to see him see what he puts together this offseason into next year.
That's a good Christmas present. I like that.
There's probably some more coming before the 25th.
Oh yeah, listen, guys. There's guys who are already signed that they just haven't announced yet, right? Like, that's how the CFL works. You're going to sign a bunch of guys here, and then you're going to slowly turn the tap on and trickle the information out.
Speaking of that, Trey Ford has just signed a 3-year extension with the Elks.
We talked about it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll just make sure we're branding that in.
Luke, wanted to bring up our ugly cousins from Winnipeg here. Obviously, a lot of change going on in their organization. They're rolling in where it sounds like they're not going to extend O'Shea and Walters. So that's odd. Now they've got their head scout leaving to go to Hamilton to become the GM there. You got Buck Pierce leaving to go to BC. Like, a lot of change going on in Winnipeg right now, and they're hosting the Grey Cup this year. You know, maybe not quite the festive season they had planned.
Buck leaving is depending on who they get back and who they put in that seat. Buck Pierce is it's yet to be determined what type of impact that has. Ted Gavea leaving that organization is absolutely humongous. It is absolutely humongous. And listen, there's been a lot of players signing, so I think that slid under the radar, but that was a fantastic get by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You're looking at a guy who has brought in some fantastic talent for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And make no mistake, Kyle Walters is going to get the credit. He should. He's the GM, and he's a really good administrator. The guy finding the talent was Gavea, and it was Danny Mack. So that was an absolutely amazing signing by the Ticats. I can't tell you guys how impressive that is. I think that it's going to be great for their organization, and it's going to be great for the Canadian Football League, because we got another guy who can recognize talent, who's going to be able to move the needle for another organization. It was a great get, and that's the biggest loss in my mind for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it kind of fell under the radar too, looking at sort of like you said, they seem to reload. Right? Like, okay, we lost Lawler. We're just going to put Schoen in there. Like, we're just going to find another guy. And if Hamilton
look
can
at the
get
defensive
that.
Backs. Look at the defensive backs they brought in. Like, there was a point in time, I think 2-3 years in a row, where they would bring a guy in and then he would go to the NFL the next year, and then they just replace him. Like, they were doing great.
They don't rebuild, they reload. That's what they used to say in Gull Lake about their 9-man football team. They don't
just a wagon.
But
that's my slogan for the buffet, boys.
Let's really talk about the big loss in the last 7 days, though. You and Wes Cates not winning the gingerbread building house at the Harvard Christmas party. Have you got over that yet?
What do you got to do, right? Like, what do you got to do? I mean, dude, people were stealing other people, getting other people's resources. Yeah. People had like teams of like 8. It's just me and Wes. And Wes out here with a Walmart put together. Like, man, we came in third, but I think I'm really hoping that A, I get invited back to the Harvard Christmas party next year, and B, I hope we do that again, because I'm gonna do some homework prior to getting in there. Like, you're not gonna see just this random approach to that. Like, me and Wes are coming with it next year.
You're gonna bring plus ones, and they're gonna be the bakers from Superstore Bakery.
Dude. Well, hey. You're going to Jeremy O'Day it, man. Hey, listen, if you want to be my plus one to the Harvard Christmas party, you got to have some gingerbread house experience.
Exactly.
Right? You can't just be anybody.
That's the only way you got to dig out of this hole. That's the only way.
You know who I bring? I'm going to bring my daughter, Maddie. She can put together a gingerbread house now.
10 out of 10 gingerbread game?
Oh, 12 out of 10. Yeah. She's unreal. Yeah, and she's competitive. Maddie. She's worse than me.
Just get her on a 2-year deal. 2-year deal. Don't go 1, go 2-year deal.
Go 2 years.
Maddie. You
got to go back to back.
You're with Dad. Okay, then Wes has got to find a plus one. That was a lot of fun. I'll brief everyone. Their house was actually, I think, the best one, and they finished third. And there was 2 of them. There was just 2 of them.
The judges here.
I feel like they just didn't want to give it to us because we're not in the building all the time, But hey, like, we love Harvard just as much as everybody else, right? We're part of the family.
I know. I showed up late. You guys were there for the full thing. Like, that's disrespectful. But you know what? Like, you got the off season. You'll rebound. I know you. You'll put in the work. You guys will be back.
Yeah. You know what? You gotta. Yeah. That's all it's about. It's about visualizing success. It's about coming up with a game plan and using resources. That's all it is, man. Our gingerbread house is going to be epic next year.
Color commentator for our Rough Rider broadcast on 620 CKRM, third place winner of the gingerbread house at the Harvard Christmas party, Luc Mullinder. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, boys. Have a great weekend.
Let's take a quick break. If you're watching the stream, we're streaming at sportscage.com, and as always on the home of the Rider, 620 CKRM. Welcome back. All new Sports Cage. Luc Mullinder, you can go back and missed it. It was a great interview talking about the signing of Trevor Harris. And yes, Trey Ford, 3-year deal in Edmonton. And Charbel DeBeer is back with the Riders. National defensive lineman. There's our great wrap up of the first 32 minutes of the program. Hey, I love the text line. Capital Ford Lincoln text line. Saskatchewan's #1 Ford retailer actually had service work done today. Perfect job. They're so nice. They're almost like too nice. And I get it's Friday. It's like, or I'm just
Friday,
grumpy.
It's December. Maybe they had their Christmas party tonight.
Yeah.
They're all excited.
You called Winnipeg the ugly cousins. And of course it's going to spark some comments. Thanks to the 204 number who sent into the Capital Ford Lincoln text line. At least he says, ugly cousins in Winnipeg. At least we care about playoff football. Saskatchewan can barely fill the stadium, and about a third of the people there are actually there to watch football. Better luck, fellas. 5 Grey Cup appearances. When you bulldoze Taylor Field, they didn't really bulldoze it. You took the pride out of Rider football. 2013 will always be the Peak Boys. Did I read that the way that probably should be read?
Yeah, with disdain.
Send him in. I love it.
Bomber fans listening. Love it.
I love it. Hopefully that guy's going to crush a few pints at Silver Heights. Have some ribs there on Portage. I was in Winnipeg, 2 weeks ago? 4 days in Winnipeg.
To me, they sound nervous. They're losing pieces here. Their stuff's falling off.
You know what Winnipeg is?
They're going to be nervous next year hosting.
Winnipeg, yes, and hey, you've had some success to get to the dance for sure. Winnipeg's that guy in his late 20s that's when he's showering, he starts seeing the hair in his hands and starts getting worried and going, "Oh, is this
what it is now?"
And then he wakes up the next day and he's like, man, it was just a dream. And he goes showers again and he runs his fingers through his hair and he's like, there's more. I'm starting to lose it.
Starts looking up flights to Turkey.
Starting to lose it. Yeah. You know, get like a rug stitched into your head. Hey, people in this building have done that.
At least there's one guy, cocky guy. Oh, you know what? But kudos to them. Sold out that game and having a hard time selling out the Jets. So Winnipeg is true blue CFL, so I'll give him that. But this guy's nervous. What?
Thanks for the text. We love it. Dion from Regina says, tell that Bombers fan congrats on their three-peat. Hey, Dion's in a Friday chirping mood. I like it.
Print the T-shirts. Let's go.
Attaboy, Dion. It's like socks on a rooster. It made no sense, but I just love it. And then if you haven't heard, Trey Ford signed a 3-year deal with the Edmonton
Breaking
Elks.
news.
Yes.
Just happened.
Curtis Gammon broke that news a little while ago on the program. Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have Kelly McClintock. We're going to talk exceptional status in hockey. This is going to be a real interesting conversation for me. I got so many questions. Kelly's always up for answering them. It is the all-new SportsCage streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back. Barney, Shynkaruk, Daren Anderson, and the C's on this Friday. Keep the text messages coming with chirps back to that Bomber fan, and I'll read them all. I'll package them all up at 936-6262, Capital Ford, Lincoln, text line. Okay, now let's shift to hockey for a bit. And exceptional status. It's an exceptional player, exceptional. It started in about 2005, 2006 in the CHL, where players could go up. And John Tavares was the first to play in the CHL as an underage. He got exceptional status. And it was big news. Since then, there's been 9 in the CHL. But the other thing, there's exceptional status. Right now, we're seeing it in Regina with Maddox Schultz playing AAA midget or U18 hockey. And we've seen it happen before in Bantam with Pee Wee kids moving up. So I thought, let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Perfect night for a wheel and a $25 gift card for that Christmas gift exchange you don't want to participate in. Get it from Western Pizza. Perfect. Everyone will be happy. Kelly McClintock is joining us. If you're watching the stream, he's got his winter beard going. It's always... When did you start that bad boy? Was it September?
August 23rd.
August 23rd. It looks fantastic. How many offers do you get to play Santa at Christmas parties?
Quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
If people are wondering if I'm trying to earn some extra money at Christmas, so.
Yeah. Well, I know if my wife's watching, she's going to be like, would Kelly come by my school the week before? Kelly, let's start really, because there's a lot of people out there that don't get it, right? Like, okay, exceptional status. What are you talking about? Exceptional status and the process. And is that even the real name of it?
Yeah, at this for Hockey Canada to play at the CHL level, they call it an exceptional 15-year-old hockey player process, right? So at that level, you pay, if someone wants to, be considered, they pay $1,000 and they have to apply by December 1st. Then Hockey Canada has a process of scouting that individual and a process of whether they approve them or not. I think in the Western Hockey League, there's been 2. There's Connor Bedard and
DuPont.
And DuPont, yeah. So they're the 2. So once that started, we started looking at our own, and we wanted to, maybe if people might say want to control, how many 14-year-olds were playing in AAA. When I started 30 years ago, AAA or U18 or midget was 16 and 17-year-olds. And there maybe it was, I think my first year here, maybe about 8 kids that played AAA midget as 14-year-olds, Patrick Marleau, Chad Hintz, people like that. But, people that came out of our province never did play U18 AAA. They went right, like a Ryan Getzlav, went right from Bantam Hockey to the Western Hockey League in those days. But we started seeing more 14-year-olds. We said, well, is that right to have a player going at that level? So let's have a process. And so we have it that, people can apply as of January the 10th, and they have the small fee. And then we try and get 10 to 14 people that watch them for the remainder of the year, get their feedback, and then we make a decision if we feel that they're capable of moving up and playing AAA. So, some of the kids that we have approved are, Braden Yeager, Riley Height,
Berkeley,
Matt Berkeley Catton. Those are the 4 kids. There's probably been about 8 or so that we haven't. There's been a few girls that we haven't. We've allowed 1 girl that played for the Rebels for 3 years out of Moose Jaw, 4 years out of Moose Jaw, because that's the one difficult thing on the female side is, they're not losing any players at 16 and 17 to junior hockey. These girls are there for that duration. So that's a difficult thing to make a decision there on that side.
So the just to back up here, the C8, when someone wants to apply to the CHL, does that have to start with Hockey Saskatchewan and then you pass it off?
They'll generally ask for feedback from us or a letter of support of some kind. So, in the case of, let's say it was, Braden Yeager, we've given him one. If they wanted to apply at that time, we would have said, we've supported that individual from an advancement, and we feel that they're capable of moving up as a 15-year-old.
Do you want us to both feel old? I didn't know you were around the Chad Hintz year because I was on that contacts team that he got status to play, and he was good. And then a few years before that, he wasn't 14, but Jeff Friesen went up and played contacts as a 15-year-old. And actually, I pulled up his stats just for S&Gs. And as a 15-year-old player, he had 88 points in 35 games. And he played 4 games with the Pats that year, had 3 goals, 1 assist. He was unbelievable.
Exactly.
Why is this such a good thing for hockey? I know other sports don't do it, Kelly, as much in Canada. Down in the States, it's like, if you're good, go play. Like when it comes to football, baseball, stuff like that. But here we're a little more guarded. Why is this such a good thing in hockey? As a parent, the one thing, it's like, because when you're playing Pee Wee, let's say a kid from Pee Wee is going to Bantam. Well, the kid at Pee Wee that's going to score 8 goals a game, who is that really good for? So let the kid go play. Why do you guys think it's such a good thing?
I think it's a good process because it's not just about what goes on the ice. You gotta in today's world, you gotta how is that player gonna to deal with off ice issues? For example, Patrick Marleau moved from Anaroy, Saskatchewan to Seattle. That's a huge change in lifestyle, and depending on where you are, as in closeness to your family, all those types of things. That's significant. It might not be as significant if you're playing in the OHL because you're in Ontario and all the teams are fairly close. But in the West here, if someone's from Winnipeg and they get drafted by Portland, that's a long way to be away from home as a 15-year-old. So I think it's important that we take into account the entire athlete as opposed to just what they're doing on the ice.
Yeah, and so obviously, the entire person, I guess, or kid or young adult. Because, to me, I've heard a little bit of the stories about the process at the CHL level, and it's much more of an art than a science. You maybe comment on that. I don't think you just go if you score 80 points, obviously Friesen's stats jump off the page. There's not if you're obviously, you got enough points in the league below, let's move you up. This is an art. This is a true feeling out of the person and whether it's the best decision for them. Correct?
Yeah, I think what's important for us is not just watching them play. You can watch them play. I don't care about the stats really. How much are they involved in the play? All the various things when you watch a game, but also having that discussion with coaches having a discussion, what's the kid like off the ice? I think that's probably more important than ever. There's Mel Davidson, who used to coach the national women's team, always said that she was against, young girls moving up in age group, regardless of how good they were, because they never were the leader. So, once, if you're a younger player coming on, if you're a 14-year-old coming on to already a team that's a 3-year age group, the chances of you being a leader on that team isn't all that great. You might be a good player, but are you a leader, right? And the leader isn't always necessarily the best player. And I know on the female side, Mel said a lot of the girls that ended up, at a national team program really struggled fitting in with the team, fitting in with being with that leadership aspect. So that's another thing. There was a player last year that we didn't grant 2 years ago. And, in talking with his father, I said, go back, dominate, but more importantly, tell him to be the best leader he can be on his team and work on those off-ice skills and how he is, because that's what's going to make him a player when he gets to the Western Hockey League. Because I have no doubt that he's going to play in the Western Hockey League, but you don't need to rush it, right? It's going to be there. So work on the other skills that he needs to have off ice.
We are up against news here, but I want to, before I let you go, Kelly, because we can regroup, and I guess we're spending some time together January 17th in Kenora as well at Hockey Day in Saskatchewan. It's going to be a lot of fun. Quickly though, this weekend in Lumsden, and then up, I think it's in Aberdeen or somewhere outside of Saskatoon.
Yes.
It's the first go around of Team Saskatchewan camp, second-year Bantam players trying to make Team Sask. Question for you. When it gets to December, if a kid, let's say, can't make that camp, but everyone in the world can see that he should be on the team, is there an exception there coming down the pipe, or?
Well, there's going to be players that can't make this weekend because they're injured. So that's where we have a process in place. They apply to us to be considered, and we talk with teams and scouts and cetera to get feedback from them to see if we should move them on to the top 160 or even to the top 80, depending on how long they're injured.
Good answer. You didn't. All right, we're gonna have to regroup on this one at Christmas when it comes. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much, and we'll chat in a couple weeks.
No problem. Take care.
Executive Director of Hockey Saskatchewan, Kelly McClintock, joining us. We are up against news. Let's get to that. You're watching the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Really got a nice little text dust up going on the Capital Ford Lincoln text line here. Dion from Regina chimed in and said, tell that Bombers fan congrats on their three-peat. Then Rod from Moose Jaw says, what's the skinny... And this is a question we can ask, actually, Farhan when we bring him on here. What's the skinny with the talk on O'Shea and the Bombers? Then he goes, every single year they play this game, wait until the last minute, and announce another short-term deal. Am I wrong? Rod from Moose Jaw. Brandon's... I'm gonna keep the rest, and we'll get back to it. Yeah, so if anyone wants to chirp the Bomber fan, plus the Bomber fan came back. He's actually a beauty because he says he's ripping pints at Silver Heights. When the AAA team draws more in attendance than your WHL team, ... Benny. Actually, Benny's his name at the 204. Benny, you're welcome anytime to chirp here. It's an open chirp session, right?
That's
dust
right.
up. Nothing like a Friday dust up. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. We've talked about it. Get your potluck appetizers, anything. Oh, here we go. Go to the stream right now. If you're watching the stream, you got to turn it to your left, Farhan, a little bit. To your left.
There you go.
Left more. Who's Taylor Swift anyway? What a t-shirt. Are you wearing that around Vancouver today and this weekend?
Actually, a friend of mine just made it. Our next door neighbor just made it for my daughter because I'm taking her to the concert tonight. So, I got tickets for my daughter, and I was foolishly going to go, but she was kind. She didn't say she didn't want me to go, but it was kind of one of those. Sure, Dad. Yeah, that would be great.
We know
it's kind of one of those, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we have a family friend who's like 19 or 20 and is a big Swiftie. So I'm going to drive the two of them to the concert, drop them off early, and then I'm going to the Canuck game to cover that. And then I will stick around and wait for the concert to end because it's apparently 3.5 hours, boys, like 3.5 hours. And then we'll bring them home way after their bedtime. But fortunately, tomorrow's a Saturday. My dog just walked into the room, and she doesn't want to go to Taylor Swift.
I'm looking up right now, see what's the latest. The last picture I got, they're down by the water. Yesterday, there was flights of beer for the mums. They were trying out flights of beer at somewhere, and then they were at a shoe store. I don't even know what's going on there with my two. But what, though, like in all seriousness, and you're there, you're living it. When we had Brett Kissel on yesterday, and he talked, and he said, this is going to go down, this Eras Tour. Like, they'll be talking about this 10, 20, 30 years down the road in that same kind of realm of like a Woodstock, right? It's like, did you go to the Eras Tour? Did you go to the Eras Tour, right? Yeah. And that's what it's going to be about, Farhan. And I'm sure you're seeing that city, and you got to drop them off and go. The traffic there's got to be crazy.
Yeah, they've had a bunch of roads that are going to be closed for this tonight, so it limits your access. And there's a security perimeter outside the stadium before you can even get inside the doors of the stadium. And I was in Vegas this year for the Achtung concert, Achtung Baby, the U2 concert, which is their last one, but it's not the same, and the venue's not nearly as big. For me, I think the last thing like this, you got to go back to the '80s for the Michael Jackson Victory Tour. And they had 3 nights of that at BC Place, and I was at 2 of them. And we didn't have social media back then, and it was still different in terms of the buildup and what goes on around it. But this is pretty special. To be quite honest, I'm surprised she couldn't sway the U.S. election. Like, she is that big. It's amazing.
It is. It's like go online and try and even find a secondary market ticket.
Dude, they're actually going to have the souvenir, like the merch area is going to be down at Canada Place, which is a mile away from the stadium, right? Like they've separated that out altogether. So all the street vendors, that's all gone. It's all down at Canada Place. So like that's different, right? That's different.
The perimeter, the security perimeter, that's very Super Bowl-ish, where you go through a security to even get to security. It's and then the first Super Bowl went to in Arizona. And then all of a sudden you look up and there's a helicopter, like literally that's like 20 feet above your head with the guys hanging out with the guns. Like, you feel so safe. Yeah. Like, everyone's like, oh my, you're going to be terrorist. It's like you the safest place in the world is what you feel. Right. Okay. People are.
This is how big it is, guys. This is how big it is. Last weekend, we had the BC High School Football Championships at BC Place. So normally we have 5 games all across the Saturday. Well, this time, the stadium decided to give us Friday for free so that we could have 3 of our games on Friday and be out of there by like 3 o'clock on Saturday so the Taylor Swift tour could start moving in. They actually moved the high school championships to accommodate Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Well, she's moving everything, right? Like, it's unbelievable.
There you go.
What do you think Trevor Harris signed for?
Oh, I would imagine it's a mid-level contract. Like, he probably isn't in the Nathan Rourke, Zach Hilaros group, but I would think he's probably in the very high 400,000s, in hard money. So, a mid-level starter, but not breaking the bank to the point where they can't sign guys around him. And yeah, again, I haven't seen the numbers, but if I were to guess, I would think it's in the high 400s with maybe some incentives.
Yeah. In your, your opinion on it, is this the best move the Riders could make a quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think that he and Mark Mueller have got a pretty good thing going. I think he really fits with how Corey Mace wants to coach this team. And I just don't think in the CFL you get a lot of full rebuilds, right, where you want to go young. There was certainly a part of me that thought it would have made sense for them to go after Vernon Adams and to be able to have like a 6 or 7 year run with Vernon Adams, who's 31 right now. I thought that made a lot of sense, but they just didn't want to have to reteach an offense and go back a step. They wanted to really build on what they had. When Trevor was healthy, he was as good a quarterback as there was in the league, and I just think it's a real fit for him at this stage of his career, and what Mace and Mueller are looking for.
Yeah, Farhan, DA here. We've been chatting, and to me, I look at it and go, okay, the Riders haven't been to the Grey Cup since 2013. It's a 9-team league. I'm not even talking winning. I'm talking about being in it.
Yeah.
Right? 2 teams playing it. At what point, like if I look at this team and go, I want to maximize winning a Grey Cup in the next 5 years, I'm not sure this is the best decision to do that. I think at some point you need to walk away from a guy, especially at 39 years old. But again, I have no answer as to who the other guy is. It's just from a visceral reaction to go, okay, yeah, he might be the best quarterback we can have this year, but will he be the best option to win us a Grey Cup in the next 5?
Not in the next 5, but in the next 2, I think so. I do. And look, again, the other option was Vernon Adams, who I think is a very good option, but it's not like there was a big name free agent available. I mean, we can all debate Cody Fajardo. I kind of said, you tell me, DA, can you go home again, right? Like, he won a Grey Cup 2 years ago in Montreal, but, I don't know that that's necessarily the right play for him to come back to Saskatchewan. So other than that, like, who's that guy, right? Like, there's not going to be a big-time quarterback available in free agency, right? The guys we're looking at, I would expect Jake Mayer to come into Saskatchewan and be the backup for Trevor Harris, and in 2 years maybe take over as the starter, because he's still a younger option that I think has some ceiling and also has a background with Mark Mueller. But, and then I would guess that a Cody Fajardo might land in Edmonton to back up Trey Ford. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But for the next 5 years, you're not wrong. But for the next 2 years, I think Trevor Harris gives Saskatchewan as good a chance as anybody to win a Grey Cup.
I think the problem with Fajardo to Edmonton talk is the same that I feel that if there was like slivers of it about Fajardo back to Saskatchewan, because as soon as anything, like I said yesterday jokingly, as soon as Harris runs on the field wrong, people are going to be like, put in Fajardo. And that's what they're going to get in Edmonton with the young Trey Ford. You've been around the game a long time. That is an absolute detriment to what's going to go on there.
Yeah, to a point. But, has Trey Ford deserved the keys to the car full time? Like, does he deserve that opportunity on day one to come in and say, you are the guy, undisputed, full stop? I'm not sure. Right now, like, I kind of am riding the fence on this a little bit, because when you look at what Drew Brown did before he got the deal last year in Ottawa and what Davis Alexander has done before he gets the deal right now in Montreal, Trey has played more games and won more games, right? But we still kind of have this doubt about where he's at floor relative to ceiling. So the difference last year is they had McLeod Bethel Thompson, and McLeod had a big salary, and he was going to be the day one starter, period. And they were talking about figuring out ways to develop Trey, but it was all kind of fiction, right? Here, I think whatever they do, I don't believe the next guy, even if it's a Cody, is going to make more hard money than Trey at the front end. So Trey will get the first team reps on day one of camp. It'll be his job to lose as opposed to what happened the other way around. But I think if you're Saskatchewan, you should be wise, or not Saskatchewan, Edmonton, they would be wise to have somebody there that you can win with. And look, Edmonton is the one place where the marketplace truly, truly wants this guy. Like, it's not like in Hamilton and Sask, they're clamoring for Trey Ford. So I'm not sure that the fan base in Edmonton, and only Edmonton, is going to jump off the bandwagon that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm in Edmonton, I'm picking someone younger than Trey. Like, I'm turning the page on this.
Younger than Trey?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, at some point, you have to do Montreal. Like, what's Montreal doing here? Like, Montreal, to me...
But Trey's not old, though, DA. Trey's still a young quarterback, is he not?
I know. But to me, and maybe, Edmonton, the new owner, needs to sell some tickets this year. I get it. If Trey's really struggling. But me looking to building a team, and like, I agree with Barney. If you bring in an older guy and Trey's struggling the first 2 games, now all of a sudden you have an unknown. Whereas you want to give him see what he can do. Give him 8 games. Give Shea like the Riders, when do you move on? How do you decide to move on? When do you decide that, our chances this year are, I'm going to throw a 15% chance with Trevor Harris of winning the Grey Cup this year. Okay, it's better. It's only 7% if Shea Patterson quarterbacks us. But then at least we know Shea Patterson's maybe not the guy, or maybe he is. But at some point you have to move on. Maybe it's Trevor's age.
Look, at that position, DA, you better be sure of what you've got, right? So, look, you're not wrong in how you're feeling about Trevor from that perspective, from the age perspective. And there's 2 schools, right? Like, Mike O'Shea will keep guys well past their best before date. Wally Buono was always that guy that got rid of him 1 year early, right? And he's like, he always said to me, I'd rather get rid of a guy 1 year early than 1 year late. And he did it with players like G. Roy Simon, right? Just Jason Claremont and others. And Mike O'Shea completely goes the other way. And, where Jeremy O'Day and Corey Mace rest on that, we'll see. And maybe they've seen what they need to see in Shea Patterson to know he's not the guy. And we better find the next guy before we move on from this guy. So, like I said, for Edmonton, I don't believe the fan base is going to jump off the bandwagon immediately and clamor for somebody else. I think they're going to give him a really big sample size. You do not want to let Trey Ford walk out that door given his ceiling. Now, he's like this, right? Floor to ceiling. There are some players that are like this, and that's what makes coaches more comfortable. But, Ed Hervey is the guy that drafted Nathan Rourke in BC. So I don't think he's afraid to hit for ceiling, look for ceiling. So, I think Trey Ford will get every opportunity. And I think when you look at Jordan McSimic, he had tremendous success with a young Nathan Rourke in 2022. He was the guy that turned around Vernon Adams' career, right, in 23 and 24. And I think he can have maximum success with Trey Ford. So I think Trey's in a good spot. And I think if they bring in a guy like Fajardo, they're going to tell him, look, this is the guy, be a good soldier. And if there's an injury, because that's the other thing with Trey Ford. Trey Ford is injury prone, right? He gets that. And people can say that about VA, and you wouldn't be wrong. And maybe even Trevor Harris at 39. So to have another guy in the building that if Trey gets hurt, because he's been hurt all 3 years, I'd want the insurance policy.
You want to go DA wants to go to that high school championship, but just that BC place. He wants to pull somebody from there.
That's right.
He wants to go real young.
There you go. Like that was saying, young. Wow. Okay.
Let's go back to the Capital Ford Lincoln text line here, and Rod brings up the point from Moose Jaw. And what do you think it is? The skinny with O'Shea's deal in Winnipeg. Are they playing games again, or DA thinks he wants he wants more?
Yeah, here's the problem.
You think he wants more money or more title?
Well, with the coaches cap, they go together now, right? Is that in order for him to, I assume he's one of the highest paid head coaches, and he's been very successful, and he deserves that. For him to make the next step financially, really the only way to go is to get both titles. And so does he hold out to say, you know what, maybe I can get GM and coach and put a little bit of more cash in my pocket? I have no idea what kind of person he is. To me, that's an obvious financial carrot for him.
Fair. However, if Mike O'Shea wanted that, he could have had it years ago, right? Because, he's got a lot of power in that building and in that entire organization. And Kyle Walters' contract was up last year, right? If Mike O'Shea wanted that, believe me, he was in the driver's seat to go get that last year. So this is just something they go through all the time. I can't imagine a world where Mike O'Shea isn't coaching the Bombers in 2025 with that team hosting the Grey Cup. They're not taking a step back. So whatever Mike wants, Mike's going to get. But I don't believe he wants to get involved in acquiring personnel. He wants to have final say on the roster, which he currently has. I don't think money's an issue there. I think he's well taken care of. So it's going to get done. But, you're losing Ted Govaya, and we'll see what happens with Danny McManus. And then obviously Buck Pierce coming to BC. There are some meaningful changes that are going to happen to an organization that is generally change averse, right? They like being comfortable. They like keeping the guys that they've got. So let's see what that looks like at OC and in the GM chair and the scout. Not in the GM chair. Kyle Walters will be there, but in the scouting department and what happens below Kyle Walters.
Okay, I was gonna go with the Canucks and some Four Nations. We're gonna shelf that for next. Let's go next week with that. Let's do it. Yeah. I'm not a big Four Nations guy, manufactured events, but we'll talk Canucks whenever you want. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Okay, have fun battling through traffic. That'll be real
goodness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
thanks, Barney. I thought you were my friend, man.
Well, I want a full. Yeah, there it is. There's the shirt again. I want a full recap on this Gong show. You got 3 days of it down there. All right, Farhan. Thanks so much.
See you guys.
Farhan Lalji from TSN on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Let's take a quick break because we got to get these bills paid here. When we come back, there's so much to unwrap. The text line, the chirping, the dust up between what's his name now? He gave us his name. He's a beauty. Benny from
Winnipeg.
From Winnipeg. And everyone else that's piling on will come back. You're watching the stream. You saw Farhan's shirt at sportscage.com. And as always, around 620 CKRM. Let's go right into our clutch performer for Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. You call 781-1077. They'll take care of you. We are going to the Prairie Junior Hockey League. Last night, 4-2 Fort Knox over Pilot Butte. Jackson Miller, the clutch performer, in net for the win. 31 saves as Fort Knox keeps rolling in that league. That is the clutch performer for Nick Service in Emerald Park. Tonight in the PJHL, we have the Thunder at the Capitals at 7:45 at the Ritchie. Text us in a concession check if you go to that one. And then tomorrow, Fort Knox is hosting the Quakers. Elsewhere, SJHL, it was the Southie Mainline Chrysler worth the drive that I thought. Game of the week, the new king of trucks in Southie, Saskatchewan. Weyburn at the Battlefords. But then Benny Walchuk said his worth the drive game in the SJ was Humboldt at Kindersley, both tonight, as well as Flin Flon hosting Melville. That's going to be a doozy. Melville losing their leading scorer, almost like a midnight move. He went to Brooks in the BCHL. See how this trickle-down thing's happening with and the NCAA, and it's like, so BCHL kids are coming to the dub, then they're losing, so now they're trying to pluck, and it's like, yeah, but it's unfortunate. Drury, what's his first name? Yeah, but so Melville's in tough.
That's one move I didn't think would start happening was junior leagues, Saskatchewan, like junior A leagues, Saskatchewan and BC.
Melville people probably a little cheesed, and they should be. And Brooks is some sort of like little, factory for hockey over there. They got straight direct ties to NCAA schools, so there's stuff going on. Like there's nothing going on here, but there's stuff going on here. That's what it is. Yeah. Estevan's in Nipawin tonight, and again, the Derek Bidwell game in Melfort. He's probably, what time is it? He's probably hitting the water slides right now at the Northern Lights Palace. Melfort's hosting Larange. Western Hockey League. We had our Western Hockey League report for Extreme Hockey and Sport. Big sales still on Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales. The Regina Pats are in Prince George tonight, trying to make it 2 in a row. Pre-game show right here on 620 CKRM at 8:30 with Dante DeCaria. Broncos, Warriors. I feel like those guys have played 37 times already this year. Broncos are in Moose Jaw tonight. Then here's the game of the night in the Western Hockey League. Medicine Hat, Lethbridge. Now with Jaeger and Unger in Lethbridge, let's see the measuring stick as Medicine Hat rolls that, about an hour down the road for that one. Also Red Deers in Brandon, and Calgary's up in Paradise to take on the Raiders. Those are the close to Saskatchewan games. AAA Midget Loop, Tisdale Contacts, Pat Caesar home Sunday. The Sask First top bantam player development camps going on in Lumsden. That's why there isn't a lot of games. Okay, so let's get into this right now. We talked to Kelly McClintock about exceptional status. He has been around a long time, and that is a job a lot like Craig Reynolds, a lot like Jeremy O'Day. It's a job that you just can't win at. You always have people chirping and running your name through the mud and saying things about you. Like that would be such a tough job. And at the end of the day, all of us that think we could do a better job, we couldn't. Like,
different, but yeah.
So here is the thing, and some people listening out there are going to know what I'm talking about, and someone. So this camp that's going on in Lumsden, this starting tonight, it's the top second-year bantam kids. So the South's doing one and the North's doing one, and then they combine. They take, I think it's the top 40 from each, and they bring 80 to Regina starting on December 25th. So the top 80 WHL draft kids this year, second-year bantam kids. Okay, so following?
Yep.
Second-year bantam kids. The problem is Maddox Schultz, who is leading the AAA Midget League from Regina. He's the phenom that we're all talking about, the generational talent who's playing exceptional status. He is no doubt the best, and anybody will tell you this, the best second-year bantam player in the province. You could send someone down on a spaceship, and they could watch 2 games from a different planet, and they would say he's the best kid. Okay? But at Christmas time for the second camp for the Sask team, Sask 1st, he probably ain't going to be here because he's at the, what is it called?
Max
Circle K.
Circle K
with the Regina Pat Canadians.
Right, in Calgary.
So as the rule states now is if you don't go to the camp, unless you're injured, you don't make this team.
Yeah, and that's, like, I get it. Like, the hard part is, obviously, when you set these camps, all of the Bantam teams know it. So they plan, like, everything's planned around
Regina
it.
Pat Blues aren't playing for, 5 days,
Everything's
6 days.
planned around
Yeah.
it. But if you get exceptional status or whatever it is to move up to midget, well, of course, the midget league's not planning to have a kid go to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're at a point where what do you do? And you go, you gotta, if you're going like this, so, accountant here, if you're going to have a process where you allow someone is that exceptional that they don't have to play Bantam and you allow them to go play midget early.
He's on the team.
Right. Well, how do you square that circle? How do you go like, well, we allowed you to do this because you're so exceptional, but we're not going to allow you to miss the second camp out of 4 camps.
And you're leading that other league in scoring as an underager, and your team is good enough to go to this tournament, but you can't play on Team Saskatchewan next November.
Right, and you're one chance, as you were explaining to me.
It's just
like
one.
This is
the age group. It's
this
the
is
one.
your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to talk about Kelly at all. This is a very hard thing. You got hundreds of kids that want to make this team in the province, and they all need to follow rules. But it's hard when you already gave an exception to the rules for this kid. So how do you then back off and go, well, no?
So here's what they do. And here's the other debate, I guess, is because I think it was Riley Height and Braden Yeager, who we talked about, that are going to play on the World Junior team this year that are really good. They didn't get to play on this Team Saskatchewan because they were at the Max tournament with the contacts and they couldn't go to that December camp. Which is okay, but let's just break it down to brass tacks here, or whatever they say.
Yeah.
He's the best player. They're the best players. Well, it wasn't fair. Well, you know what I teach my kids? Life is not fair. Your last name's not Musk, and Dad doesn't own Google. It's not fair. It's just how it happens.
Right.
Like so now they can make it right. And there might be a kid that comes in 4, 5, 6, 7 years that's even better than Maddox Schultz. And then you're gonna go through this again. It might not even be that many years away. So just change it now. And you know what? I bet you if you asked Yeager and Height's parents, and even them, because they're mature boy, drafted NHL, playing on the World Junior team this year, they would go, yeah, I'm glad you guys did this because he deserves to be there. He's good enough.
Right,
He's
exactly. And I get it. Like, so they're setting up the rules for the 99.9% of kids that come through this program, and that they don't want kids going, hey, I'm going to Mexico with my parents over Christmas.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can miss that and still make the team. So I get it, right? You got to have rules to go, okay, for 99.9% of the kids going through this, these are the rules. But you already made an exception, like for 99.9% of the kids in Bantam, they can't play midget AAA.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you've already, you've made this part of the rules, right? Yet you can't miss this thing unless you're playing midget AAA. And you're at,
there you go.
And you're at the Max tournament.
Yeah.
Like, because if you don't, because the Pat C's was it last year, didn't go to Calgary?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. Like, so if you can't just choose to miss it, I guess is probably the intent of the rule. But to hold it against a kid that can't make it because you allowed them to play in an age group up because they're literally that good.
You enabled it.
Right. 99.9% of kids can't play midget AAA except for you, but you need to follow the rules of all the other Bantam kids when it comes to this Bantam team.
And it should almost be that now this Maddox Schultz is leading. Let's keep that in. He's leading the league in scoring. He's legit, and he's going to run away with the scoring title. So then it's almost like if this happens again, the 99, so this the 0.1, I guess, percent, it's just like, you don't have to do anything. We'll send you a plane ticket. Just, you're there. It makes sense.
Right. I think what you do is you just say you have to beat all of them if you can be there. Full stop. You have to, because it's not like, I don't think they pick the team here at Christmas time.
No, there's a summer ordeal yet.
Right, but to say like now he can't go on to step 3 because he's at step 2, like, but you're leading the AAA league. Yeah, it's hard for me to square that circle.
I hope they sit down and just say, talk it out. You don't even need to sit within a group. Just go in front of a mirror and say it. It'll make sense. No, he's the best. We got to make an exception. He's got to be on the team. There was a lot of bouncing balls there. If you're following it, it's passionate just because it's like he's good. He's the best. He's got to play.
Think there's any debate, like you said, someone could come down from outer space and go like, obviously this kid is talented enough to make this team. No one's debating that. This is now just a technicality, a rules thing.
It's like back in the late 90s in Akron, Ohio. If there would have been a basketball team and LeBron was playing 3 divisions up, and then they said, well, no, he can't play on this team. You know what
he missed the tryout.
Yeah. They would just say no. And they do that with football. And like it's like, no, it just make the exception to the rule. And life's not fair. And it's unfortunate they didn't do it for Height and Yager because they were good enough to do. But hey, now it's 2024. Make it right.
Yeah, and then you have a new process going forward.
That's right.
And I mean, you and I, again, Kelly's been doing it forever. He knows all of the things that are going to go wrong with this decision that you and I can talk on the radio about and have no consequences.
It's and then we'll get hats made. SportsCage hats. Make Sask First great again. It's the all-new SportsCage, streaming at sportscage.com. Twitter dust up. Twitter, not Twitter, the Western Pizza guest hot enough. What? Yeah. Capital Ford text line. Reading 3 things at once here. Capital Ford Lincoln text line dust up is kind of slowed. Have you been reading them, Colson? As they come in?
I've been enjoying it, yeah.
Oh, and people are messaging in. Tino Sinceri is to be named the OC at UCLA. If anyone remembers him.
Yeah, leaving Indiana.
2013 Grey Cup champion, technically.
He's chasing Steve Sarkisian for the most successful college coach. It was once a Rider quarterback.
Yeah, he just hates the Riders, I guess, apparently. Like he doesn't want to do anything or talk about it or anything.
Which one?
Sarkisian.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I guess.
I remember being a fan back then and not being people not being too kind to his playing career here.
Okay, I was asking you, Colson, because there's a couple of long ones here. Like Brandon's, I want to read it, but it's long. The reason the Bombers sold out the playoff game was it was a quarter full of Rider fans after being there, their party in the park sucks compared to what we have at Mosaic, and they are not they are polite in the washrooms. 2 guys to a stall figured it was hurry the lines up. Funny it took longer. I don't know, but anyways, yeah. We started with DA calling would you say ugly cousins?
Yeah, they're ugly cousins.
And then
stand by that.
Benny from the 204 from Manitoba chimed in and said, you guys stink, basically.
Good old sports rivalry.
Yeah, so got into
off season.
Oh yeah, he said you can barely fill the stadium. When they bulldozed Taylor Field, he took the pride out of Rider football. 2013 will always be our peak. And then just started a little dust up, and we liked it. And we kind of read the text messages. No one got hurt. It's all in good fun. But you're so when we started the show, you kind of said, and then Luc Mullinder, we're going to play that again in hour 3, the Trevor Harris signing. For you, you said it's kind of like a meh. And then even you kind of caught Farhan off guard with you think that the Elks should go younger than Trey Ford.
At some point, you got, again, I'm looking at this like the Packers and the Lions. You got the Packers be great right now, rolling with Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones still, and squeaking into the playoffs, and selling a bunch of number 12 jerseys still. Or when I guess the ultimate decision that I'm saying is, when do you move off? Do you take a chance and take a risk on finding a diamond in the rough, or do you you roll back what we did last year.
That's right. I don't think you do. The diamond in the rough thing in the CFL is and the NFL is so much different because they have SEC, like their farm system. You got these college football quarterbacks, and even a lot of those. Like what's the percentage of Mac Jones? Woohoo! Now what? Like he was awful after year one. Like there's so many variables. That diamond in the rough and trying to go young. I think unless you got the guy in the stable and you're watching him for a few years, is Shea Patterson our guy? I don't know. I didn't like from what I saw this year. He was serviceable, but I don't know if he's going to be a starter in this league. Nick Arbuckle, he's not going to play that long because he wants to go coach. Jake Mayer, again, like I said when Luc was on, there's the scars from playing on a crap team in a rough organization where there wasn't a lot to play for there this year for a lot of the period. So I think that's a good thing. Like he was still going out with he's got the battle scars a bit. Rebuilding in the CFL is so difficult. So that's why I think, 39 or older quarterback, but that's not like the 39 that you and I know. Like when our dads were our age, like they were old. Like, everything's younger now.
Again, Trevor Harris is a good quarterback. I guess where I'm looking at it from is going, we've had 10 years. Like how many more years do I need to wait till we get a Davis Alexander? Or, like where is our Chad Kelly? Like how many more years do I need to wait to get to a Grey Cup in a 9-team league? Like there has to be, I guess that's my ultimate is what, where do, and I get it. Maybe Harris is the best chance to win a Grey Cup for us this year. I don't know what that chance is. Nobody does. But at what point do you say we need to go with a Shea Patterson? We've had Shea Patterson in our system for 3-4 years now. At what point do we take a chance on the next guy? And for me, that's where I'm going. That's what I see other teams doing, right? Like Jake in Calgary is young, but they've decided, obviously, that that's not their long-term success plan. Trevor Harris's age just makes him, he can't. Like, I get it. He's not going to be playing for the Riders in 5 years.
I think it's by far the best option this year, maybe even next for us. And the fact that if they run most of the band back, like I said, you look at that Winnipeg game and we got maybe out-schemed. Maybe to a man, they'll say a little bit out-coached, outplayed, definitely. That's one game. Maybe there's a few plays early where things change and ifs and buts and blah, blah, blah. But Trevor Harris today talked about just having the continuity. Trevor Harris today, this is where Curtis is supposed to be playing the clip, talked about the continuity.
This is my first time since 2018 going into an offseason where I have the same offensive coordinator in the same system. And so that's a tremendous advantage that I'm going to be able to hit the ground running. We can talk about 301 level ball stuff in an offseason as opposed to, trying to introduce me to what each formation needs. And so there's a different level to that. And I think with that, we can have higher expectations for a regular season. Going, undefeated at home is something that, I think is important for us to provide the fan base what they deserve, which is a team that goes undefeated at home. And I know that they're going to be packing the stands next year, making it difficult for teams. And, getting that home playoff game in the West Final as opposed to the West Semi is going to be a big thing in our mind. And so there's several things, but I think really what it starts with is really the knitting together of the brotherhood. And to me, the best teams are the closest teams. And as long as we could start there, just start there of knowing that we're building something special together, knitting together the brotherhood, that's where it starts. And then we can start building on the schematic things, the bigger goals, the process of each week and those sorts of things.
Comments?
Yeah. I again, we know who Trevor Harris is. He's gonna most likely be a Hall of Famer. I'm hopeful that he gets a Grey Cup ring with us this year. I am. Like I hope there's nothing. That's what I want. I want to go to Winnipeg and watch the Riders in the Grey Cup next year, and maybe he is the best. I said that's a meh to me. It doesn't make me excited. It's not. I didn't book a hotel in Winnipeg when I heard the news, but I'm gonna let Jeremy and Mace, and like he said, another year with Mueller. We should get better. Let's find a few more pieces for him on offense, maybe a few more weapons.
Benny can probably find you a hotel room. He's chiming in here. He's going hard here at Rider fans. He said on the guy, does that guy have a grade 4 education? Pretty sure you can leave the stadium at half and go party in the park in Winnipeg. And the Rum Hut doesn't stop serving booze at the third quarter. Keep trying, you farm lads and potash heads. So there we go. Hey, the dust up is back on. Capital Ford Lincoln text line 936-6262. If you want to fire back, we're coming back after the news. We're going to talk to GM of the Moose Jaw Warriors, Jason Ripplinger. Plus, we're going to continue all this going. It's the all-new SportsCage streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome back. It is for Nelson Holmes on this Friday. Barney Shynkaruk, Daren Anderson, Curtis and Colson. Okay, we're going. So what happened? Trey Ford signs 3 years with the Elks. Trevor Harris signs yesterday. Luc Mullinder joined us earlier. Great discussion there. You can go back and listen to that in podcast form. Then we had Kelly McClintock on talking about exceptional player status when it comes to hockey leagues. That's going to tie into our next guest in a bit here. Farhan Lalji in hour 2. We talked CFL around the horn there, so you can go back and listen to any of those. Around the area this evening, hockey-wise, we have SJHL-wise, Weyburn's and the Battlefords, Melville's Flin Flon, Estevans and Nipawin, Kindersley welcomes Humboldt, and the Derek Bidwell game in Melfort as LaRonge just taking on the Mustangs. Pats are back in action tonight, trying to make it 2 in a row in Prince George. That game can be heard right here on 620 CKRM. The pregame show starting at 8:30. Big game in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat in town. That'll be a measuring stick there. Broncos and Warriors in Moose Jaw. Red Deer, Brandon, Calgary in Paradise to take on the Raiders. Prairie Junior Hockey League, Thunder and Capitals, 7:45 at the Al Ritchie Coliseum. Senior hockey. We got the senior hockey report coming up later in this hour with the Monday Nooner guys. Long Lake, Foam Lake hosting Lanigan, Leroy's, and Wynyard. Watrous and Wadena, Big Six style. Carlisle welcomes Wawota. And Mydale welcomes Redvers. Coppell Valley Highway Hockey League. What did they message? These are just you guys messaging in here. We have Balgony playing host to Lumsden, Milestone in Raymore. And then the Southeast League, Esterhazy, Langenberg. That's in Esterhazy, and Swan Valley's at Cote First Nations. Shout out to everybody in town, everyone participating in the Westridge female tournament going on at the Cooperator Center. Good job on Westridge Construction for sponsoring that event. Huge female tournament. My little twirler will be back after Taylor Swift tomorrow night to play in that.
I thought you were going to say shout out to everyone participating in the Capital Ford Lincoln Dust Up.
Yes, that is going down on our text line's been hot today. All it took was Benny from Manitoba to chirp and get in a little, and everyone kind of piled on. Benny did say, if the Riders make the Grey Cup, the whole Silver Heights tab is on me for the SportsCage beauties. I said if the Riders make the Grey Cup, I think we should hold our own little, it's like a speakeasy Riderville.
I like it.
At Silver Heights. It'll be like the SportsCage Riderville at Silver Heights. If you don't know what I'm talking about.
Beers are on Benny. I love it.
Beers apparently will be on Benny. We'll cut him some slack. Scott chimed in, said maybe just keep the QB room alone. Let them mature another year under a Hall of Famer. QB1, everybody whines we never groom any QBs. So here's a good opportunity to do so. Scott, the fuel hauler, has spoken. Scotty's hauling some petro around. I wonder where you could tell us where you're driving. Scotty, let us know. Rod and Regina, having encountered Bomber fans in and around Regina, I can honestly say I've only met 3 who were good people. Come on. The others have said and done things in public that can't be mentioned on a radio show. Rod, let's not throw stones in our glass house, because I know a lot of buffoonage.
I said cousins. So we got to be careful there.
Because we go back to Benny here. He said, where is it? Make sure, no, not that one. Not sure how people in Sask can hate on Winnipeg. It's basically Regina with better restaurants, women's sports teams, and a bit more crime.
This guy's not a potted plant.
Benny tells it like it is, though. Next time, if I come back to Regina, we're going to go for a pint. Okay, so 936-6262, Capital Ford, Lincoln text line, Saskatchewan's #1 Ford retailer. We talked Moose Jaw Warriors taking on the Swift Current Broncos tonight. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline, pick up that gift exchange gift, get a Western Pizza gift card, $25, or catering options available for your Christmas parties. He was joining us on the stream, but the internet wasn't strong enough in his office, so we got brother of Todd Ripplinger, Jason Ripplinger, general manager of the Moose Jaw Warriors, joining us on a game day. I feel privileged, Rip, that you made some time for us.
No, I always got time for you guys, but I don't really want you to be admitting to people that Todd's my brother either.
Hey, you guys got Swifty again tonight. It was an emotional one, though, earlier this week, because you trade Yager and Unger, and then you face them as they're now with Lethbridge. That deal, Ripper, why did it make so much sense from your point of view?
Well, I mean, obviously, all the trades we made last year, the cupboards were a little bare here this year, and my goal was to make sure that we had lots of picks for this year and years to come, and for the franchise to keep moving and have success in the future. We needed to have those picks. It was a hard trade to make, but it was a hockey deal.
When you make trades like this in the Western Hockey League, and it's one thing, and I mention it on the show quite often, is people say, we can't trade anybody, we got to go. Like, I think the Blades are going to be in that situation this year where, and I don't want you to speak for the Blades because they're their own organization, but if a team is really close to being decent in the playoffs, as a general manager, it's got to be so hard to say, listen, I've been around. This is my gig. This is what I'm paid for. We don't have what it takes to go all the way. So let's get, like you said, let's get some assets in the cupboard.
Yeah, and that's what we did prior to winning the championship. We had some good teams here in Moose Jaw, and we tinkered a little bit, but I knew we weren't as good as Winnipeg, so it didn't pay for me to try to sell and try to get as good as them, as I just thought in that year that was our year, and I wanted to make sure it was our year, and obviously it worked out for us.
Hey, Jason, DA here. Obviously you've been now on the buy side and now the sell side. Is this sort of required in the junior league to remain competitive in the long term, or is obviously hard on these are kids, but is this a norm for you? And do you see this sort of happening every so many periods or generation of kids, I guess?
Yeah, I think, the way the game has changed here, it's, in the last 5 or 6 years, guys have really been buying. And then obviously the team that has won the league didn't make the playoffs the next year. So obviously that's not what our plan was. We had 15 players coming back, and, we thought we could be kind of where Saskatoon is, and I mean Saskatoon's done a good job. They are in first place. They are a good team, but in our situation, we just had we had some injuries and maybe some players just haven't played up to the potential. But we are where we are, and I just thought now the time is with Braden going off to World Juniors, he wasn't going to be here for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So I just thought that this time was the right time to do the deal.
Does it also, obviously you need someone to tango with, or, and Pete Anholt and Lethbridge, they wanted to get the deal done early too? Yeah,
for sure. Pete and I started talking probably maybe a month ago, and he just kind of mentioned it to me because I wasn't in no rush to move Braden. And, obviously I knew in my heart that I was going to move Braden. It's a business decision, but we started talking probably about a week and a half ago, and we just threw some stuff together, and kept tinkering the deal, and eventually Jackson Unger ended up in the deal, and it was a good deal for us to get 9 pieces for 2 guys that one's not going to be in the league next year. So moving forward, I thought it was a great deal for us.
What can you tell us about the 2009 D-man you picked up in Colt Carter?
Yeah, no, obviously he was a good, he wasn't a throw-in in this deal. He was keeping his options open, and obviously with the new change in the NCAA, he probably was a late first, early second round pick last year. So when Pete put his name in it, and obviously we did a little bit more checks behind the scene, and he was a good fit for us. And we didn't have many picks in the 09 group, so he'll help our defense out in the future here. Couple
of side ones, just as a hockey guy, and to pick your brain on this. What does it say about Saskatoon minor hockey, but the province in general? I've never seen it in my time where we have so many athletes that possibly could make the World Junior team, especially from that 05 group, and then you had Berkeley and as an 06 that are going to the World Junior camp. Speaks volumes for that year, those years in Saskatchewan hockey.
Yeah, no, for sure. The 05s, there's players that obviously aren't invited to the World Juniors that are having good junior careers right now. For whatever reason, it was a good year in that group, and obviously, the guys that are there, I think they picked the right players, and hopefully Canada can bring the gold back.
How much do you know about this new rule that they came out with this year? That when it talks about age-enhanced players, and starting, I think it was this year. So if a kid's played up, he's now allowed to play 34 games in the Western Hockey League. So if a kid's played up at 12, 13, or 14, now instead of just playing the 10, I think it was, if he's drafted in the Bantam draft and he's been that exceptional status player in his younger years, they're saying, okay, he can play 34 games in the Western League. Do you know much about it? And do you think that's a good thing? Because it could affect you down the road, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it will affect us down the road, but I think it's a good thing for those players. Those players are obviously exceptional, and I know I was listening to you guys talk about Schultz. He's an exceptional player. But there's no rush in the game either. So even if he doesn't play the full year in the Western League, but he plays 34 games and he stays with the Regina Pack Canadians, he still gets to be a kid and play with his friends and also play with whoever he's playing with in the Western Hockey League. And I believe he'll still develop to the player that he's going to be.
And then just on the the new, I guess, way that hockey's going to go here, where major junior kids are allowed to go play NCAA. As a guy that's been around the Western League for so long, Rip, what do you think about that? And for you, it's kind of a cool thing where you get Casey Brown, who's committed to ASU. He's able to join your team just a couple weeks ago here. Your comments on the changes and the positives with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good positive. It's a player like Casey, coming to the Western Hockey League. I think the CHL is the best development league in the world, and I think with Casey now coming to us, I think he'll be even more prepared when he gets to college, and that's our job now, is to make sure that it's weird to talk about it, but it's like I've sat in the box with some of the college guys that we've been fighting with for my 30 years that I've been in the league, and now you're sitting there, trying to build a relationship, saying, in Casey's situation, that we'll make sure we develop him so that he's ready to move on to ASU.
Right on. I know it's tough on a game day, and you made some time. Appreciate it, Rip, and heck of a trade. Good job in restocking for the fans there in Moose Jaw. That was fantastic to see.
No, thanks. Appreciate it.
That is general manager of the Moose Jaw Warriors, the WHL champion Moose Jaw Warriors, Jason Ripplinger, join us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. It's crazy to think that trade was huge.
Well, right, and putting my hat on as a person who has a job. Okay, is that what's the culture change like? So you went from an organization that was adding pieces to make that run to being the WHL champions to, I don't know, less than 6 months later, you're now on the other side of that going, we're going to take our leaders out of that room, send them away, and start to build new leaders. Like it's gotta be, and then layered on top of that, you're dealing with kids, right? You're dealing with 16 to 20-year-old kids that are just that much change. It would be interesting, and you know, the pressure put on someone like Ripper to manage all of that and manage that locker room. Like, how do you manage that locker room?
And the other thing that people don't talk about, and Ripper or, you know, Priestner or Al Miller, anybody will never talk about it. Marty Murray and Brandon, absolute beauty. Curtis Hunt, they're all good guys. Is you're dealing with the young kids, but now you're dealing with the advisors and the agents and the parents. Like, it's crazy now in the Western Hockey League. I forget who we had on that played in the Western League, like 80s, 90s style. And it's like, if my parents ever called, like Daryl Lubanicki in Saskatoon, I think it was Cam Moon maybe, he was like, he would have hung up the phone and said, "Hey kid, your parents are weird." But like these guys are dealing with all this now. It's not just the young kids.
Well, right. And it's this massive of a change. Like, imagine, you know, your second and third line centers going, okay, now where does this put me? And now I'm jockeying for that center, you know, I want to be in that top line now instead of the third line. And you got your mom and dad and your agent going like, yeah, that's where we see my kid now. Now that the dynamics of this team have changed, everybody's got to find a new spot and become happy with it. It would be, just from a leadership standpoint, a fascinating transition to go through. You know, and really, you know, every team in the WHL constantly has this building, you know, are we going for it this year, building for future years? You always have that. To me, I'm going to call it the extreme up and down of Moose Jaw, where you were the WHL champion buyer, brought a bunch of leaders into that room, and then literally not even half a season later, you've shipped them off, and now it's just a completely different feel in that locker room. It's quite a thing to go through for Rip.
The other thing that is like so interesting, and we will talk about it as we go along, I haven't heard anyone else talk about it, and I found out about it last night, is this Western Canadian development model and the roster composition changes. So what I just asked Rip about it, and again, follow the bouncing ball here. If a 12, 13, or 14-year-old player receives special status to play an advanced age category, so that's playing a category up, at the age of 15, this player will remain carded at the lower level. So let's take Maddox Schultz, for instance, who next year he gets drafted. He doesn't get exceptional status, which I think he will, but let's say he doesn't get it. So he gets drafted by Edmonton.
Yep.
I know a lot of people want to say Regina, right? Okay, wherever. Edmonton's got a pretty good chance too. So he can, if he doesn't get exceptional status, now he can play 34 Western Hockey League games.
That's almost half.
That is. It used to be 10. I think it was 10.
Yeah.
But now, like, that is a great move. And again, that is like, we get into the Team Sask thing. Well, you know, with Height and Yager couldn't go, but there's so many players that only could do the 10 or whatever, and now they made the change. And they said, no, you know what? It's the right thing to do. Hockey's evolving. The kids are so much better nowadays.
Well, I know. And once you decide to have an elite program, age has to become a second portion to that. Now, maturity and ability, like that's where, you know, talking to Kelly, and you have to assess a younger person's maturity level to be able to go and play with older kids. But from a strict skill point, why should age matter? Do you know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't matter when you get older. Like, really, right?
Like, you know, like I get it. We want to cap, you know, we don't want 16-year-olds playing in the NHL with men. There's a maturity level to this. But once you've decided that the CHL is going to be an elite, for elite hockey players, if you're an elite hockey player, age gating should matter less. And this move is really just doing that. It's saying, you know what, we're going to loosen the age gating on this a little bit, just to give these kids, because it's better for their development, and having them play in a lower division if they've got the skill level to play at the best isn't necessarily the best for them. And I agree with Kelly. Leadership, all that stuff matters too.
On the hockey front, if you didn't hear, if you're an NHL fan, a fan of the New York Rangers or even the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, Jacob Trouba was traded to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Crazy.
Hey, great weather. But wow, you were going to the bottom of the barrel there. Traded for Urho Vakanainen. Vakanainen. We started the show with that. We haven't said that name in a while. So interesting trade in the National Hockey League goes down today. Also, Trey Ford, 3-year deal with the Edmonton Elks. All you Elks fans out there. And then we're going to go back to the text line here after this break. The dust up is back on. It is the all-new SportsCage DA, the C's. We got the senior hockey report coming up, too, for all your senior hockey fans. We are streaming at sportscage.com, and as always, on the home of the Regina Pats, 620 CKRM. Get people to text in. Yeah, that's what we try and do here, and it's going really well today. Hey, book your holiday party at the Canadian Brew House. There's still time. Your ultimate destination for events, parties, fundraisers, and more. 'Tis the season to celebrate. Book now in-store at thecanadianbrewhouse.com. Like I said, the senior hockey report still coming up. We got games littered around the province tonight. We showcased the guys or girls that messaged in their games in their area. Foam Lake hosting Lanigan in the Big Six. Carlisle welcoming Wawota. Lumsden's in Balcony in the Coppell Valley Highway Hockey League, and the Sask East, Langenberg, and Esterhazy. Georgie Porgy chimed in with a little chirp there for the Ripplinger boys. He said, reminder from Pilot Butte, Jason is the taller of the two brothers. They are so good, though. They are funny. Also, Scott the Fuel Hauler, who said, leave the QB room alone. Let them mature another year under the Hall of Famer. See, I kind of agree with Scotty here. He's hauling Petro, destination Provost, Alberta. There you go.
Nice.
If you want to get in on the chirping to the Bomber fans or anything else, 936-6262. We appreciate Benny chirping in from Winnipeg and getting this whole thing started today. That was a lot of fun. What do we got? We have Trevor Harris. He talked today to the media. We are going to have him on the show on Monday. The deal came down. It was official today. Justin Dunk, we had him on yesterday. We talked about it. Harris today talked about the timing of getting this deal done. Curtis.
Breaking
Breaking
news
news.
now.
Trey Ford.
They know who's under center. We don't have to. And to me, like, the big relief to me was this team didn't have to think very long who they wanted to be their guy. And to me, that means a lot to me personally. I don't like to talk about myself personally very often, but that meant a lot to me personally, knowing that they knew that they didn't need to, fish around and see what else is out there. They knew that they wanted me to be their guy. And so that was something that meant a lot to me. And to me, I think it sets a direction for your team because, when you know the guy that's under center, we know a lot of our guys on offense. We have a ton of guys back. I think it's time, if you're, somebody that's been a Rider fan your whole life, I think it's time to start getting those expectations and that hope meter a little bit higher in terms of what to expect from this team.
It's funny because I think it was you that brought it up and asked me to say if the Rider Grey Cup odds went up with the announcement of the signing. And I think you said that maybe a little bit facetiously. It's not on here. Cool bet.
It's probably too many unsigned players in the CFL for these guys to have, because there's so many one-year contracts. There's so many free agents coming in February. But I will say this: I 100% agree with Trevor Harris. Expectations is Grey Cup, right? You that's the thing, and that's if you're gonna bring back a seasoned quarterback, your expectations are Grey Cup. And that's what I want, and that's what he wants, and that's hopefully what the team has, is that this isn't a get better year. This is a make it to Winnipeg year, and Barney and I will be hosting.
Yes. The Riderville Speakeasy at Silver Heights.
Pre-game for Riderville.
Benny, run it by them next year, or next time you're in there. I was actually just in there, interviewed Brian Munns for the pod. Had a few. It's hard to explain. It's like this little hole in the wall. Awesome. Benny said it's kind of like the barley mill of Regina. It's smaller than the barley. It's kind of on that same thing. While I'm on Cool Bet here, getting ready to sprinkle on some senior hockey, actually, I'm looking at college football.
Yes.
I forgot Penn State, Oregon. They play this weekend.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow, Texas, Georgia. The two sort of non-Power 4 games are tonight. So UNLV Boise, be a great game, and then Army plays Tulane.
Yeah. Georgia, Texas. Texas,
What's the line there?
3-point favorite, Texas.
In Georgia, in Atlanta.
No, it's in Texas.
No, well, it's neutral site.
Neutral site.
In Atlanta. So, and Georgia really took them to the woodshed this year. So, I might sprinkle a unit on Georgia if they're getting points.
Well,
Georgia's D-line was dominant that game.
World's your oyster. Get in on it. Makes everything more fun. What do we got NHL tonight? We haven't talked about that. More of the local sports show around here. Oh, there's a plethora of games. We got the Maple Leafs hosting the Caps. I still can't believe Alex Ovechkin is now like in gear skating.
It's incredible. The guy needs to be studied.
Yeah.
For a whole bunch of reasons.
Good way. Exactly. The Leafs are a 1.5 point favorite in that contest. And then no other Vancouver Canucks. That's where Farhan said he's going tonight. Oh, I can't even imagine trying to navigate through traffic. And I don't even know Vancouver that well. It looks beautiful. Trying to navigate traffic around that area with the Eras Tour on.
And a Canucks game. It's
hoofing it. Take your rollerblades.
Where are your ladies staying? Are they close? Like, can they walk, or they gotta?
No, they're walking. They're hoofing it.
Oh, good. So they don't need to battle.
No, and I said, like, pay the little bit extra. You and I, we love planning trips.
Yeah.
It's like, it's cheaper if we stay here.
Stay in Burnaby.
Yeah, exactly. That's halfway
ride.
to Prince George.
4-hour ride.
Stay in Williams Lake. No, I'm really curious to see the pictures and the hype and the price of tickets on the secondary market, that if you can find them, like, they're hanging on to them. Did I ever tell you the Michael Jackson story?
Yeah, you've told me. It's a great story.
Did I tell when he announced his last leg of tours at the O in London, pre-kids for Mrs. S and I, she went on the lottery and she got the lottery for the second round of shows, and it was his last shows ever. So we're like, MJ, big Michael Jackson fan, both of us, going to see him in London. And we were to Spain for maybe a couple days and then head up, right? All that. And then I was working here. It was like my second year at Harvard in my real job. And we come, and Chris White used to be on The Wolf. He goes, "Hey, did you hear Michael Jackson died?" Because they all knew I was going to the concert. And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, Michael Jackson died." And I'm like, going to my BlackBerry, right? And I'm trying to, this pre-Twitter, pre-everything. And then everyone used to go to your computer, you used to go on TMZ. And I'm like, this has got to be fake. He died.
Oh, that's crazy.
Curtis, did you know Michael Jackson died? You know that Trey Ford signed a 3-year deal.
Breaking news. Breaking news for
people that don't listen to the firfirst hour of the show don't even going to get that joke, but
we don't do callbacks here. Sorry.
It's so much good. If you missed the also the clutch performer we had earlier for Nick's service in Emerald Park, we went Junior B hockey style. Jackson Miller for Fort Knox in their 4-2 win last night. He had 31 saves. Take a quick break. Let's see what Cody's up to in Yorkton. The lottery's going out there. Cody, you sound fantastic. It is the all-new Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. We are going to get to this senior hockey report in a bit here. Just a little premature on the intro. A lot of games going on in the area. Thanks to everyone who messaged in on theirs. If I was looking tonight to go out and travel, it's beautiful driving weather.
Yeah.
I would probably eye up that Lumsden-Balgony game, nice and close. And then probably Esterhazy a town I've never been to. It's a long road trip. Langenbergen, Esterhazy. And then you were like blown away that you were like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, they're 10-point favorites are the Carlisle Cougars in their game, as are the Moosomin's 7.5-point favorites against the Oil Kings. And you're like, you can bet on senior hockey, and I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So people can connect the dots there. There's sprinkling to be had on the senior loops. We talked about Trevor Harris. Like I said, we're hoping to have him on the show Monday with us live and in person. That'll be what do you call it, Colson? A double quarterback day, because we also got Daren Durant.
Yeah, Wildcat formation.
If I don't screw up, yeah, Wildcat. If I don't screw up the time again for doubles, that's a me problem. I'm aware. Don't forget, Regina Pats hockey coming up here on 620 CKRM. Pre-game show, 8:30. The Pats try and make it 2 in a row in Prince George. If you're heading in that Moose Jar area, we talked to general manager of the Warriors, Jason Ripplinger. They host the Swift Current Broncos tonight. And if you're lucky enough to be watching in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat and the Hurricanes, that's the measuring stick this evening. What did we talk about everything you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah. Yeah, no, great day. Meh. Got the text line buzzing.
Yeah, thanks to
good old Winnipeg.
Good job, everybody. That really stirred it up on the text. Let's keep that going. Tony and JC are my boys. St. James's, Regina, they're absolutely no different.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Benny gets the last. I'm giving Benny the last word on the dust up. Benny from Manitoba. He'll be back, and we can all do this again. Cease, thanks so much. Good job. You can go back and listen to everything in podcast form. Kelly McClintock, great discussion on exceptional status hockey player Luc Mullinder, Farhan Lalji on the CFL moves. And then Jason Ripplinger, like I said, general manager, Moose Jaw Warriors, joined us. DA, always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Barney. Me too. Lots of fun.
So much fun. Don't forget about your team fundraiser at the Canadian Brewhouse. A chance to win $2,500. Tons of options to choose from. Canadian Brewhouse can help raise funds for your crew. All the details at CanadianBrewhouse.com. Are we doing senior hockey? We can go senior hockey. Let's go to the senior hockey report from the Nooner guys. It is the senior hockey report from the Monday Nooner guys here on the Sports Cage for Future Ford in Melville, Saskatchewan. The future is Future Ford, new and used units. And also coolbet.co. You want to go and check out some action there and play some action. I mean, senior hockey wagering on there at coolbet.co. All right, boys. First off, let's start with this. Unfortunate news. We didn't cover this last week. Central Butte Flyers had to fold in the Sask Valley Highway Hockey League. Just the commitment thing. They didn't have enough bodies to play. It's unfortunate to see this. We kind of see it about once a year. Teams try and make it work, and they just can't.
Yeah, probably 2 to 3 a year. Honestly, something goes down, but I will say from the big picture, senior hockey has grown year over year with more teams. Even with a couple teams dropping out, there seems to be more teams coming in to increase the numbers. So it happens. People have commitments. People are driving from the city and stuff to go play or play in their hometowns, and bit of a commitment issue out there is what they're saying. So we're hoping Central Butte and the Flyers can get it figured out for next year.
Yeah, and to all the teams that are going out and battling with 9 guys, 10 guys, keep it up. Your towns need the canteen, everything. The senior hockey is the lifeblood of a lot of these towns. Last week, let's start in the Long Lake. It was kind of our game of the week. It was the Foam Lake Flyers 6-1 over Wynyard. On Friday night. Foam Lake still in first place, probably could be still the top team in the province. We'll get to that in a bit, but that was a statement game in the Long Lake Hockey League. What were the other ones around the area that were big last week?
I know I tend to talk quite a bit of Big Six. There was a good one on Sunday evening. The Moosomin Rangers stayed perfect 5-0 overtime win against the Carlisle Cougars, who's another top team in the province. Actually, Moosomin was up 3-0 early in the third. Carlisle stormed all the way back to tie it at 3 with a couple minutes left, and then Riker Cole, who actually had a stint with the Regina Pats. Some listeners might be familiar with the name Riker Cole. He scored the OT winner, assisted by Taylor Sandheim and Bud Holloway, who's one of the top senior players in the province. So Moosomin's got a very, very good team out there, looking really good in the Big Six with a perfect record so far.
And
Hey,
Shink, if we want to go close to home last week, there was something that was super interesting to me. Assiniboia down there, they have we call them Team Moose Jaw, obviously, because they have a big draw from that area. They went into Rollo, who just kind of got fired up again last year, and Rollo took them to OT, losing 11-10. So, yeah, you got your money's worth out there if you were down in Rollo watching the Ramblers and the Assiniboia Rebels play there last Friday.
Yeah, that's a tight one there. Hey, Shane, I know we talk a lot of time. We got listeners in that southeast area, the White Mud Hockey League. That's firing. That was one of the last leagues to fire up in the province. Etonia's has already played 5 games.
5-0. They're making a statement this year. I don't know who they've really picked up that's been good, or maybe some of their young guys grown and matured a little bit out there. They got a lot of local flav out there, and they're buzzing. They're laying the boots to everybody so far. So they're definitely a team to watch out in the western side of the province.
Yeah. So that is White Mud out there. We're going to keep you updated on that. In the southwest corner of the province, Cabre, Leader, Maple Creek, Gull Lake, Frontier, and Shaunavon, all in the league. Let's go to the top 10 that we had on the Monday Nooner for this week. Shane, what were the honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions this week: the Delmany Sabres from the Twin River, Etonia Huskies, we just talked about them from the White Mud Hockey League, and the Langenberg Warriors from the Sask East.
The top 10, if you heard it on the Monday Nooner podcast, maybe, but it was the number 10 spot, a new team from the Notikewin Hockey League, 5-0, the Radville Nationals. Number 9 was the Lashburn Flyers, undefeated from the Sask Alta. The Allen Flames from the Twin River, 5-0. They're at number 8. 7 was the Raymore Rockets at 5-1 now. The Leroy Braves, the upstart Leroy Braves from the Long Lake, in at 6. 5, the Lumsden Monarchs. 4, the Kyle Elks. 3, the Davidson Cyclones from the Sask Valley Hockey League. They're 5-0 this year. Good squad out in Davidson is what we're hearing. Another good squad in number 2, Moosomin, the Rangers. What are you hearing about Moosomin this year, Brandon? It's kind of a deep, like 2-line team again.
Yeah, 2-3 lines, added some toughness, some grit, some former pro guys who play a tough style of game. So they need that to play in the Big Six. It's the working man's league. It's not, it's tough hockey out there, and they seem to check all the boxes. I'm hoping that when Senior A Provincials gets announced, they will be back in A, as they had a good team last year. It just fell short in an early round to Belcaris. But I think Moosomin could be a sneaky team all year long.
And the number 1 team in the province still, and they're undefeated from the Long Lake Hockey League. We talked about them. The Foam Lake Flyers. Foam Lake. What would be the league this year so far that we're seeing would be, maybe if we were going to call a league of the Super League? Would it be the Long Lake?
I don't know if we've have enough evidence to support any league being it seems like most of the leagues have 3 or 4 strong teams and then maybe a tier down, like the Long Lake a few years ago, it seemed like every team was competitive. Doesn't feel that way to me just yet this year, but as far as top end talent goes, it would be as good as I'd say just about anybody.
Hey, Belts, what are some games of the week?
You know what, Shink? If I was in these areas, these are the games I'd be watching this week. Belgoni, close to Regina, but they're heading into Belcaris, not too far away. Saturday night in the QVHL, it'll be a good game. Theodore's heading into Rocanville in the Sask East, and Kenniston is heading into Kyle in the Sask Valley. The one game I like, obviously I'm a Div 3 guy, we joke about it, but this is going to be a big game. We put Radville in the top 10 this week at 10. They're 5-0. Assiniboia is traveling into Radville. They're 4-0. So that's going to be a huge game. Obviously, someone is going to lose. Someone's not going to be undefeated after this weekend in the Notikewin. So that would be my big game of the week this week. What do you got, Boz, for your games?
Well, in the Big Six, as there always is, there's a ton of games scattered throughout the Southeast, but the game of the week according to the Monday Nooner, is Redvers and Carlisle Saturday, 8 bells. That one gets underway. 2 of the top 3 teams.
There it is. If you want all your senior hockey updates throughout the week, Monday Nooner podcast, follow us on the socials. And of course, we're here every Friday doing this for Future Ford in Melville. The future is Future Ford. Good units, used and new. Check them out. And also coolbet.co. If you're looking to do a little sprinkling free of charge, you go to coolbet.co.